Welcome to the Tech Story Podcast, a place where we talk about the latest insights and trends in tech, business, and startups. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Barry on the show. Barry is a technology and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. Currently, he is the CEO at Mason, a Forbes and TechCrunch recognized AI shopping copilot for commerce. Previously, his past startup was acquired by the Flipkart Group, a Walmart company in India. Barry, that's a lot to unpack. Would you like to maybe, share a bit of background about your journey and the story behind Mason?
Yeah, thank you for having me over, Charles. It's a pleasure talking to you. Maybe what I'll do is that I'll give for folks who are listening a little bit to know about myself. I kind of spent my first half on the enterprise side of the ecosystem, building out products globally for teams on like BMW, Daimler globally. Subsequently, I jumped out to kind of work with this Citibank global mobile rollout. Hopefully, for some of you folks who use the Citibank mobile app, that was one of those things that we kind of built back in the day. And yeah, I mean, post that, it was one of those things that, I saw how there was this need for enterprises to really build wherever consumers were, helping them get access to the products. And that was really what I did with my first startup. It was a cross-platform application building toolkit, helping enterprises build applications across the entire platform, from mobiles to desktop to web, all across it. Had a great time building it, scaling it a bit, and of course, great time also working together with the Flipkart Group, where we joined. And that's where I and my founding team really came together. We saw this thing that a lot of brands, they were able to come online, but they were really having these hard challenges in terms of how do you scale our businesses online. And that was one of those insights for us. We were folks who really work closely with brands, helping build all of this infrastructure within marketplaces, and just realizing that there are many more entrepreneurs, many more brands who have their own storefronts, but lack access to that infrastructure, was really what was this story that really called to us. And with Mason, that's what we are solving for today, helping brands scale up by bringing infrastructure that helps them go from what we call from startup to scale up in the businesses. So that's a little bit about us. I've always been somebody who loves content, somebody who loves working together with entrepreneurs. And
Thank you for it's great background. And I guess after the acquisition, it's so hard being an entrepreneur, and the chance of being successful is so low. So you were successful once. Why go and do it again? What was sort of the why put yourself through all that pain again?
Oftentimes you look at it and entrepreneurship on one side definitely is way hard, but at the same point of time, it's always very fulfilling. I mean, and you talk back to any entrepreneur, that one of those core reasons why we step away from jobs to startup is oftentimes the fulfillment that we get and the degrees of freedom that entrepreneurship overall offers, per se. And I think that's usually, while companies are doing better on that front still, but there's still a way to go in terms of when you kind of step out and do it yourself. And I think that was one of those key reasons for me to kind of step out, because I could definitely see that, you're doing great stuff within the Flipkart Group, helping brands scale up, but there were many more brands online, and we just couldn't reach enough of them with the Flipkart platform. There are many more global brands, whereas this infrastructure that we're building was at the heart of what really drives growth for a lot of these younger brands who are coming and setting up stores for the first time, or were building up the online businesses. And that understanding is kind of missing. And just this ability to have the impact, the larger impact that you could do.
It's great. And I can definitely relate to entrepreneurship being fulfilling, and even if it is, hard and tough, ultimately the reward makes the journey worthwhile, and that's why we do it. I guess since being a founder of Mason, I can definitely relate to the journey of entrepreneurship ultimately being the drive, and it's a lot more exciting than working in a larger organization where maybe you can't have as much of an impact or as much freedom. So I can totally relate. And so in terms of Mason today, what's been your favorite moment so far?
When we started off, it was honestly, we had this inkling of a problem where it could really have an impact for merchants. But just seeing this in real life, where we see this transformational effect on customers and their whole businesses, that's really the wow moment for any person who's building or any a person who's starting out the business. The impact that they see in the face of that. And for us, it's really been seeing this. We today work with over 1,000 plus global brands, but a lot of these brands, they said that, hey, I'm like this woman who runs a business on the side. Without the business, I really can't do enough at my home. But you guys have been a lifesaver. You kind of take a lot of things on autopilot, and just those validation that we get back as to what you're building and is having real impact on people's lives. That's really been incredible for us, just seeing that output. So those have been some of those standout moments for us, seeing this, what we see as life-changing impact in terms of just financial security or in terms of where the business would have otherwise collapsed. We started right when COVID hit. And for a large part of businesses, you'd well understand during that whole couple of years in between, everybody needed to figure out how do we kind of now bring home money, because everybody needed to have a digital operations. Everybody needed to set up an online store, but just didn't know how. And the impact that we had during that time, I was pretty happy with what we kind of got on board. And some of those moments have been incredible, just in terms of how life-changing, and some of these stories that kind of emerged from, hey, like I can ensure that I'm financially secure now, and my business runs without it dropping. I'm having sales through my business. That's one of those standout moments. For some businesses which are scaling up and finding it really, where do we bring in our next set of capital from? Really, they could go to self-serve without needing additional financing with some of the tools and the solutions that we brought on board. And those have been incredible, successful moments for us as entrepreneurs, seeing that impact.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, helping customers is always rewarding, but even more when it impacts their livelihood and financial freedom. So congratulations on helping that. And what do you wish you'd known before starting Mason?
Yeah. As builders, oftentimes, I mean, and this comes from the DNA of the founders, oftentimes, I believe like every founder has some kind of a superpower before they start out and somewhere where they're good at, which is why they're coming into the space. Of course, you either like the problem, the space, or you're kind of having a personal itch and you kind of started off on. But oftentimes you tend to index on one side. Maybe you're good at sales. Maybe you're good at building stuff. Maybe you're good at, talking to people and communicating your ideas across. But you have some things which are good. But oftentimes when a founder, you need to kind of embrace all of those skills together. And that's really what causes the success of a company. And so you've got to acquire all of those skills to some degree for next step. So what I would have said is that maybe spend some time kind of indexing on learning a little bit more of those skills early on, in terms of, sales is a very essential skill if you're a founder. You can't walk away from it. The ability to build is super essential, because in the early days, you won't have people who are building out for you. You probably need to start off. And the third part of it is that problems need to be something that you personally feel. You can't build for a problem that you won't feel yourself. And so these are some of those learnings that have come along. So you've got to embrace the problem by saying that, hey, we started off by, we'd launch stores ourselves and we'd go through the whole problem cycle ourselves. And then you kind of embrace the problem. Hey, how difficult is it for an entrepreneur really to start selling on the net today? And so those were kind of the things that really what I would say is that I'd learned a little bit earlier, in terms of saying that, hey, can I embrace the problem by setting up these online stores myself? Can I just ensure that I have better handling on how I sell to people?
I can definitely relate to having to pick up skills that I didn't even know existed. But I guess just following off on that, what sort of advice would you give to a founder or entrepreneur who doesn't have a background in sales? And as you said, selling is essential. Without customers, no revenue. Without revenue, no investors. So, how would you suggest, or what tips can you give for like building sales skills or research?
Yeah, so I think oftentimes we misunderstand what sales means. And oftentimes as builders, I think it's inherent that, hey, selling is a skill that we don't really need to know. And it's really something like somebody else needs to do it. It's kind of a dirty job and they're kind of doing snake oil. But that's never really what sales is all about. Sales is really about understanding people's problem and being helpful. And that's what people want to buy. People want to buy it into what's valuable, what's helpful for them. That's really, and you need to have the ability to communicate that way. And, the way that I speak to engineers in my team and product builders in my team is that the human language is code for the human race, as we call it. So you need the ability to, and as this, today morning, in fact, I was having a chat with one of my engineers and they said that I don't need to learn how to communicate or write emails. I can code. And they said the human language just incidentally happens to be code for humans. So it's super essential to pick up on those skills of how do you communicate ideas, how do you communicate the value that you bring on board. And that's really what sales is all about. So if you are a younger founder, I think just sales is not something so daunting. That's just really your ability to communicate your ideas as to why you are building this. How does it help people? And that's really what matters to customers at the other side.
So that a great piece of advice, which essentially is understand the problem and then communicate your solution for that problem clearly, and then sales will happen.
Yeah, that's really all that's there in the magic sauce, as you call it, right? Sales.
Perfect. And where do you see yourself and Mason in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I kind of have this long-term view in terms of how the space is emerging. I'm pretty sure that you see there's a lot of buzz today in the space around how AI is come of age, almost of sort. Generative AI has brought it to the forefront. But having said that, there's a lot of changes, and what this really brings is change in consumer behavior. And oftentimes you kind of see through these pivotal moments. I don't know if you're kind of active during the mobile era, but the mobile and the social era were really fundamental changes in computing, in terms of how we interacted with devices, how we interacted with computing devices, really kind of changed dramatically. What we are is at a similar moment in history today with AI. And we see that kind of affecting across the board, from how we shop to how consumers discover products to how consumers buy them. And so for us, as I kind of look forward to 5 years forward, I see that we kind of being the infrastructure that kind of bridges this gap between brands who are coming online today and brands and consumers today. And how do you kind of bridge that gap with, say, as consumers, as we help consumers shop anywhere, how can brands really help you communicate that narrative of what your brand is all about? Why do you need to buy from them? How does it help and enrich their lives, no matter where consumers are? And so that's the infrastructure I see us as building in the days to come. And so fast forward 5 years, we hopefully are a part of that.
Great. No, I mean, best of luck achieving that vision. It sounds very ambitious, but seems like you're on track. So congrats. And you're on the Tech Story podcast. So what's your favorite tech product and why?
This is the thing that I see about products, and as having this conversation recently is that, great tools, they not only help us do things, but they also help us think. And so one of those products that I really like along those lines is Notion. I really love the simplicity that it brings in terms of helping me express ideas, collect them, but also at times just help me brainstorm and clarify my thoughts together and help me think better. So, and I usually tend to see, if you dial back and say that the first set of tooling, online tooling, we had spreadsheets, we had Word documents, we had presentations, the whole Office suite. But they're so basic tools that oftentimes those basic tools kind of help you express your creativity, help you kind of think better in terms of what you want to do. And so I think that's really the hallmark of what I see as a great tool. For me, Notion has really been one of those super cool tools that I've loved since the launch.
No, I've only discovered Notion relatively recently, and I agree. It really allows you to be more creative and express, your creativity. But I guess I've also noticed that there's a lot of noise on Twitter, and maybe this noise has always existed around Notion, but keep being clunky, not what it used to be. Do you agree, or is that just
Yeah. So, and usually that happens as also tools mature. Is that what we call as this building for the pro user and building for the starting off user is oftentimes almost always at disparity at each other. And for somebody who's come up with Notion, you probably find that, hey, there's a lot many more shortcuts, there's a lot many more things that you can do. But as they go down that curve, it's also the thing to watch out for. And as you rightly say today, it's not only, by the way, in the Twitter world. Personally, also, I feel there's a lot many more things in Notion I just don't use. But at the same point of time, the simplicity of the interface does keep me grounded in terms of what I can do today. But yeah, it's something definitely for the Notion team itself to watch out for, is that how far can they stretch that barrier without losing their core users of SaaS? Because then it's again the cycle for another tool to emerge, which kind of comes back with the simplicity of writing, expressing, and what's at the core of creativity. That's really what kind of matters to us as users.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, where when you have such a great product and you want to, obviously conquer the market, you have to make some key decisions around which users you want to grow with and which users do you want to bring along with you. So yeah, hopefully it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, as you scale up, it's always one of those problems that you keep battling also with. When startup, oftentimes you kind of start up with the creators, the individual folks. But that's obviously one way to start a business. But as you kind of grow, you also see businesses kind of jumping on board. And oftentimes as a business, you might have very different needs. And so how do you balance those needs? But I definitely see this is one area where I see that as more AI-based interfaces come to the floor, hopefully we'll see less of clunk, because then you might have assistants who can help to figure out which kind of tools that you really need at that point. How do you kind of, maybe just in the case of Notion, which kind of formatting to apply to a block need not be decided by a person itself. It could be an assistant kind of deciding, hey, we could reformat the block in this way to kind of give you better expression. And so there might be some of those things that come into play. But I definitely see that kind of going down the road as more AI-based interfaces emerge.
Yeah, no, I mean, Notion's AI capabilities are really impressive and definitely, key unlocker for more creativity and growth. So I guess, Harry, I've really taken a lot of your time. So I'm going to ask you the closing question we ask all our guests. What piece of advice would you give to an aspiring founder or tech leader?
As you kind of go about building a company, and I think it also, as I reflect back and I say that, hey, when you start up as you scale up, it's very difficult to keep yourself grounded as to why you started up on that vision. And so it's very necessary to also tell yourself and reinforce for yourself, why are you in this at times. So as founders who are starting off, it's oftentimes very necessary to say that why are you building this is something that you kind of need to keep close at heart. And that always keeps you grounded on what are you building as well. It's oftentimes said that we build what we measure, and you need to have the right things that you want to measure for. Right? And this why you are building is always a super important fact, because if you're building to make more money, it's very different from if you're building to solve somebody's pain point to if you're building to, hey, I want to solve my own pain. They're very different problems, and I think you need to kind of keep yourself telling yourself that so that you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think there's, why, the big question of the why is super important, especially when things aren't going to plan or because ultimately, if you forget why, then, you might give up or you might, crack and go down the wrong direction.
And there's always going to be ups and downs in life as in business, but the why keeps you grounded as to why did you start out on this problem in the first place. And oftentimes, if you have clarity on that, it always kind of, the rest of the things can come together, they fall in place.
Well, thank you very much, Barry, for being on the show, and best of luck growing Mason.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Charles. It was great talking to you. Have a great time.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye-bye.